Good. Welcome to the next session. As I said, today we are going to look into handling more complex data scenarios in React. So far in the previous talk we created a game of match, and I left like a new assignment for you to look into maybe adding some new components. So that's what we've been looking at in Dan's example, and I've actually did the same in mine. So I updated the fiddle. This is the latest version, so you can check it out. And what I did here is I've just added drop downs like this, so that you can change the size of the game board. Yeah, and it will reinitialize the whole game, and you can play again. And if you reset, it will just reset it at the same size as you have set currently. The reason why I told you to do something like this is simple. So first of all, it introduced some new components. Yeah. So let me just explain what components do we have at the moment. So we have this, which is a component called user message, and the way it works is it accepts one property. I think it's only one. Yeah, it's one property called game state. Yeah, so that's the one we've seen yesterday and in Dan's example as well, and it translates the constant into like a more human-friendly sentence. Yeah, so choose second card. See, I forgot to set the state correctly when I was initializing, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, so basically this is just the component that renders a user-friendly message. Then another new one is card. Where it is? It should be called settings, I think. You have layout, user message, settings. Yeah, so settings just renders two selects and one button. Yeah, so this is the thing I've been talking about before. I'm not exactly sure if it's preferable to use button or if it's better to use form on submit, but I'm leaving that as a question for later. So what I do here, I just bind the selects to a state on this settings component, and the reset fires a method that I pass into it from outside. Yeah. So when you look into my layout component now, we have quite a lot of things going on here, and one of them is the new settings controller, which gets possible width. So that's an array of what the width can be, and possible height. So that's this array. Yeah. So that's been injected, and then it gets something called reset, which only calls an initialize method on this component. So we talked a lot about properties, but so far we never sent a function as a property in our examples. So I think it's a good idea to tell you now and make sure you understand that you can do that. Yeah, because as I've said before, function can be assigned to a variable, and then you can send the variable, and it's basically just the reference to that function. So that's what we are doing here, and that means that when you call reset on the settings component, it will actually call the initialize on the layout component. Yeah, does it make sense? Is everybody at peace with sending functions as properties? Okay, so this way you can think of it as a callback, basically. So if there is something on this component, on the, not on this one, but on this, in the cards, in the layout, that I want to happen, and I want to trigger the action from someplace else, I can do it by passing the function into it. Yeah. Fine, and that's how I changed it. Yeah. And the reason why I told you to do something like this is now it's very simple to explain why this doesn't work very well. Yeah. So Think of this as if it was some more complex application. So let's say it's a website, and let's say we have multiple routes, yeah? And in the initial release, our task was to create this game and the settings, yeah? And let's say in time the settings component grew and it became too big. So I don't know, for now we have only 2 drop downs, but let's say then we add some sort of name and message so that you can record like your score, how long did it take to solve the puzzle or something like that. And eventually, as we keep adding and adding things, some business analyst or somebody will tell us, okay, but now is not a good user experience and we need to move the settings component to a different place in our web application, yeah? So what that means, so you would instead of having one layout component as a base, you would have something like, for example, I don't know, website, which will be the main, the whole website, yeah, like the base layout of the whole web application. Then inside you will have first page. On the first page we'll have some text, maybe some additional JavaScript, maybe some title, stuff like that, and then we will render the layout, but only the game. And then there will be a second page, and on that second page, this is where we want to render the settings component, yeah? And I would remove it from here, because they don't want it here anymore, okay? Now, it's a reasonable thing somebody might want in this scenario, yeah? So one page became too crowded and they want to move one component out of it and put it someplace else. But based on what I showed you, somebody tried to tell me what's the problem, why it wouldn't work. I can tell you that, and now you try to figure out why it wouldn't work.
Because it doesn't belong to the father.
Yeah, I think you. Okay, so I think you know what you are saying, but was it clear to everybody what exactly it means? Then Veronica. I think Easy understands it, but maybe we will need a bit better explanation to make it easier for everybody to understand. So either Easy, you can try to sort of improve on that, or if you guys already understand, then tell us and maybe we can find a better way to say it together. Okay, I'll help out. So when it was here, we passed in the reset, for example. We passed in other things, but one of them was reset, and remember it's actually this initialize, yeah? Where the initialize is in fact in the layout component, right?
Yeah.
It's this method and this is the layout component. Now, since the layout is rendered here and the settings is rendered here, yeah?
It's outside.
It's outside. So logically speaking, I cannot do something like reset, and what would I say here? Yeah, I have nothing, you know, because what I cannot do like layout dot initialize, you know. It's layout is a component. It doesn't work like that. I cannot pass it in, you know, and it would be a bad practice if you did, because so here it might sort of sound okay, but let's say this component is actually buried inside the second page, so then I would have to pass the reset, even if it worked, like this, for example, yeah, initialize. I would have to first pass it to the second page, then the second page would be another component that can have in the render method some components, maybe the settings is not even direct child of second page, maybe it's direct child of something that is a part of second page, and maybe it takes like 5 or 6 levels to get to the component that we actually want. Yeah. And that way you would have to make sure that you are passing the variable from one to another, to another, to another, to another. And if you make the mistake that you forget to pass it anywhere along the line, you will just lose the reference and it will not work, and it will be quite difficult to understand what went wrong. Plus, to maintain code like this, it's almost impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the motivation. Yeah. So that's why what we've been doing so far is maybe fine visually, but especially for more complex applications, it fails. You know, it doesn't scale very well. So there are obviously reasons to fix it, and this is what we are going to talk about today. So okay, and let's start actually. I'm not going to do this in this example because I have a feeling that this may be grown a bit big, and it's a good idea to always keep your examples very small so that you know, so that it's easy to spot the things that we are adding, because here this is, I think, now like 150 lines, and if I just keep adding stuff and adding stuff, later on if you look at it, it would be hard to understand what is the thing that we've been talking on now. So instead, I'll take our previous example. So this is ECMAScript 6, JavaScript plus React and JSX. So this is the very simple, one of the first ones that we've created together, and there's just one component that gets a property name and outputs the property. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say that I want to be able to change this property, and I want to be able to do it from outside of this. Yeah. So let's create outside of the hello component. So let's create a new component called change name, and okay, this is fine, and let's output something like input type text. Yeah, so this is where we will keep the new name. Then value will come from the state. Yeah, so we will keep the name in the state. So this is what you do all the time with React. Not sure if you've seen examples like this before, but if you want to have like a select element, or if you want to have input element with text or something, the way to maintain the variable in state is, first of all, you bind the value to it, and then when you go on change, so every time it changes, you fire something like this handle, I'll call it handle input. This is my name. Yeah. So now we need to define this function, handle input. It's an event, so it will get one parameter. Let's call it event. And for now, let's just console log this event, and let's keep it simple for now. So let's do this. So I'll wrap this in a.
You have handle. You have G.
Okay. Handle input. Fine. Okay, that should be better. And we will just console log the thing that was sent to this event handler. Okay. And let's wrap this hello element with a div, and let's output our new change name element as well. So now if I do this of null, okay, so we need some initial state. So let's add a constructor to this. And let's set the initial name to be Peter. Let's run it again. supercall constructor. I was missing S. Okay, so now this is Peter, and now if I press something, it will not change. So it's weird. So why it didn't change? So first of all, we get some sort of log going on. Yeah. So this is the thing that it logged. So let's take a look at that. So if I go to target, and if I find, there should be I think there should be value here. Let's console log event.target.value actually. So this will be the thing we changed it to. Okay. I run it again and I change it to something. You see that the thing we passed in through the handler is correct. I've added S and you see that it's Peter's. Yeah. And if I add A, it will be Peter A. B, Peter B. But why is this not changing? Yeah. Well, the reason is we hard-coded this to be the state name. And remember, every time something changes, React re-renders itself. And if it re-renders itself, it will just use the state name, and the state name is Peter. So it will just remove our change. Yeah? So in order to fix this, instead of console logging, we just do set state and change the name on the state to come from the event target value. Yeah. So now if I do this, I can write to this, and I obviously forgot the bind this part because it's complaining that it doesn't understand that there is no property set state on this. So when you see something like an error message like this, you understand that you should see that you need to bind the method so that when it fires, this is what we talked about already, when it fires, it needs to know that this is actually the change name component. So now I can write to it, plus the state is actually changing. So anytime I want to access this variable, I don't have to do something like jQuery selector for the input element in this form or something like this. I have it in my state. Yeah. So this is how you do binding with input elements in React. And now that this works, let's add a button to this where we do onClick, and this onClick should change the name. Yeah. So let's say we have a method change name and bind this. It's a good practice to do it almost all the time. And therefore, if I press this button, change name, eventually this method, which is called change name, should somehow magically change the name in the hello component, right? But for now we don't know how. Yeah. So we have one option. That's the easy stupid option that I did before. So I would just pass in some sort of function to this that will actually be a callback to the method on this component, but it just wouldn't work properly. It would be a bad practice. So let's try to come up with a better way. And there are a couple of frameworks to solve this problem. One of them is called, one of the very popular one is called Flux, and another one is called Redux. Now, for our project, eventually we will be using Redux, but Redux is kind of complicated to grasp the concept first. So today we are going to talk about Flux, because it's simpler and it's quite easy to implement. And when you see how that works, you should be able to understand very quickly what's how you can improve it to make Redux out of it. Yeah. So what we will need for this is the So Flux is a library. It's maintained by Facebook. So first of all, Flux, what does it do? Yeah, that would be a better question. What does it do? So let's look at one of my previous draw IOs. And this is what we ended up yesterday with. So this is the layout of the application, and I have created one before, which was Flux. Okay. So this is a diagram to make it a bit easier. Let's say let's say I am one component, Easy will be another component, and the two of us want to talk somehow, but we cannot do it directly. Yeah. So if I cannot talk to Easy directly for some reason, there is a wall between us, I will tell Veronica, tell Easy something. Yeah.
Okay.
So Easy, you cannot hear me now, and
Yes, I do.
no, you cannot listen now.
Alright, example.
Yeah. And I'm telling Veronica, please tell Easy that it's 11:13. Yeah. Veronica gets my message, and now she can tell Easy, Peter says it's 11:13. Okay. So that's the main motivation behind how Flux works. Yeah. So in this case, I said that me and Easy are components. So me and Easy would be React components, and Veronica was a store. Yeah. So the new thing that we are introducing with Flux is store. Okay. And this is how it works. So component can affect data by calling actions. So in my case, my action was tell time. Yeah. I told time, and now Veronica dispatched. Yeah. So for now, let's just think of dispatch as an English word. It will become like a JavaScript thing, but for now, let's just think of it. Easy example. She just dispatched, broadcasted this. Yeah. To store. So basically to her data, and then the store tells components to update themselves. Yeah. So there was an action, tell time. This was dispatched, saved in the store, and then Easy got the message not from me, but from the store. Yeah. There is a very nice example on Facebook, Flux introduction, I think. Might take a second for me to find it now, but I think it's a good idea to look at it. If I can't find it, then we'll just skip it. I know I seen it today. Ah, okay, it's this one. So it's actually by Fluxor, which is one of the libraries that implement. So Flux is an idea of how to solve these things, and there are different libraries that implement this idea. Yeah, and this is how they sell this idea. So if you do MVC, so controller model view, if it's a simple example, it looks like this. Yeah. But if you add another controller and add another model, and now if some of the views actually gets data from two different models, so think of it as, for example, Facebook has the messenger, and now every time you get a message, the messenger windows pops up, you get the small notification on the top tray, there is like an envelope icon, and there is like number 1 there because you have one new message. So that's an example of a view that is depending on two different models, for example, or two views dependent on one model, and all of them are displayed at the same time. And as you keep adding controllers and models and views, the diagram, the dependency diagram, you can see how complicated it becomes. Because how do you know that when you receive a message, you need to update these two views exactly, the top bar and the messenger pop-up? Yeah, it's hard to maintain this information to be able to responsibly update the correct things. Yeah, and this is how it works with Flux. So you have the store, you have the view, you have the action, and you have the dispatcher. Yeah, it's exactly the same diagram I showed you here. But what they have is, what happens if you have multiple stores? Yeah, well, look how tidy, look how nice, you know? Views call action, actions called dispatcher, dispatcher sends these to different stores, and stores updates the views. All is done in a way that's very easy to maintain. You can see it on this graph right away, how tidy it is, basically, especially compared to the previous one where you have arrows running around. Yeah, these diagrams, does it make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, all good, everybody. Good. Now let's implement something like this. Yeah, so where is my jsfiddle? Good. So far we have done the visual logic, and now we want this world, which was passed in as a property, to come in from somewhere else. Okay, so let's start working on it. So first thing that we need is the new libraries. Yeah, so we will add two of them. So we will add Flux by Facebook and Flux Utils again by Facebook. You can find these on GitHub, and you can look up some documentation, and I'm your documentation source as well. So if you need anything, just let me know and I can explain. So Flux is the main thing. So what is Flux really? When you import it, you get this. You get, let's console log it. You get capital F Flux. When I run this now, I will get this object, and this is the Flux object, and the only thing that lives there is a dispatcher. Yeah. So I mentioned it briefly before, but let's now make clear what the dispatcher is. So dispatcher is something that accepts actions. Yeah, so like on this diagram that we've seen. So dispatcher is something that accepts actions, and it dispatches or sends these actions to different stores. Yeah, so if we have more stores than one, there will be okay. If we have more than one store, we can either listen to the dispatcher, or we can choose not to listen to the dispatcher. So depending on that, there is an arrow here or there isn't. If a store is not listening to dispatcher at all, if I remove this arrow, the action ends in a dispatcher and it will never update any data. So dispatcher is like a filter. You can think of it as a filter. It takes actions and it sends them to stores that are listening. Okay, so it's something like even better example. I am component, Easy is a component, Veronica is a store, and Dan is a dispatcher. And now I'm appreciating that there's 4 of us. So I need to talk to Easy. Therefore I trigger an action. This action goes to Dan. And now at some point in past, Veronica either told Dan, okay, I'm listening, or she told him, okay, I'm not listening. So if she's listening, then the dispatcher is talking to her, so then then will provide the message to Veronica, and then she is able to update easy on the news that I've sent her. And if she's not listening, then the message will just go to waste, yeah, and nothing will happen. So this is what Undispatcher is, yeah. Very easy, humanly said. Now, since we have the dispatcher, you see it here, let's create one, yeah. So let's go variable app dispatcher will be new flux.dispatcher. It's a class, so you can create it with a new keyword. Okay, so now if I console log app dispatcher, I should get something. This is the dispatcher. These are the things it can do. It has some callbacks. It has is handled, is pending, last ID, and if it's dispatching. Yeah. So this is, later on when you see what it does, it will be very easy to understand what these are, but now it makes no sense to waste time explaining them. The most important part for us is to know that it's created and is working. When you are playing with this, when you are creating your own examples, either do console log quite often, you know, just to make your peace with the new technology. You know, if you import this script, for example, make sure that you know that it's only adding one global object, which is called Flux, and the global object Flux has the dispatcher in it. Yeah. So this is Flux and this is dispatcher. So we've created that, and now we need a store as well. So store is very similar in a way to how you create a component. So we'll use ES6 and we'll make a name store, and in order for it to work, it needs to extend something, and this something lives in the Flux Utils. Yeah. So if I now, I think that Flux Utils should be an object as well. Let's see. Okay, I need to comment this out for now. Okay, yes, it is. So Flux Utils is another object that was added by including this script here. And this object now contains 4 things: container, mixin, reduce store, and store. And for simplicity, we are now only going to use this store, the base one. So just like when you include React, when you console log React, it will give you the library, and the library of React is a bit bigger, yeah, than this. So there is, for example, component, which is the class that we use all the time. You are familiar with it. And there are some more things there. Create class, create element, stuff like that. That's not important for us. But just like we've created the component with React library, now we are going to create a store with Flux Utils library. Yeah? So Flux Utils dot, and we said that we are going to use store. Okay. So now we have the store here. Just a sec. I need to find something. Good, I have it. Good. So now we have created a store, but at the moment it's not doing anything. Yeah. So we need to tell it to do things so that it's useful for us. So just like with React component, Flux Utils store as well has some methods that we can take advantage of, and the method that we need the most is onDispatch. So this is the method that will be fired every time an action is sent to a dispatcher. Yeah. So every time Veronica gets a message from Dan, this method that I'm going to create now is the one that will fire. Okay, so the method is called with double underscore, and it's called on this patch, and the thing that it gets as a parameter is action. Now, so far we didn't talk much about actions. Yeah, so what is an action? Action is a method that you can fire, and the method sends data to dispatcher. Okay, so let's create const name actions. Okay, and let's make it a JavaScript object, and one action that we need for this will be change name, right? And the change name will be a function. The function will accept one parameter called name. This is your responsibility to come up with this. If we are changing name, then it gets one name. If we are changing name and last name, there will be two parameters here. This is your design, so you have to come up with a good design that works for this. Yeah. At the moment, we are only worried about the name, so that's the one parameter we need. And then what this does is it calls app dispatcher, and as I've said before, it's quite a good idea to console log things. So if I now console log app dispatcher, we'll see what's there. And the dispatcher has okay, there should be dispatch here. So okay, let's leave it now. Take my word for it. There is a method dispatch, and the dispatch accepts some payload, yeah, so some JavaScript object, which has two important properties. First is action type, yeah. So we need to be aware of what we are sending. So let's say action type here will be change name, and this again calls for using a constant, so that's how I will refactor it later, but for now let's use change name. Yeah. And another thing that is here will be payload, and this is more of a standard way of calling things. So anything that is an action should have a type, and it should have a payload, unless the action is empty. You know, if I had an action called delete name, I don't need payload, it will just delete whatever was there. Yeah, but for us at the moment the payload will be the name. Okay, and now to verify if it works, so we set that actions call dispatcher and it dispatch an object. Yeah, and then we've created a store and a method which should be fired every time an action is accepted by the store. Okay, so let's create an instance of the store, because so far this is only a definition of the class, but now create an actual name store. So let's call it name store with lowercase n, and let's create it as ES6 with the new keyword. It will be name store, and in order to tell the store to listen to a dispatcher, you need to pass the dispatcher in to it in the constructor via a parameter. Okay, so now we have a name store, and now we have a name store that actually listens to this dispatcher, right? So if I now console log the action and fire the change name action, I will for now just do it manually, yeah? So I will just go name actions, change name, and it's a function, and it will be, this should eventually change the name to Veronica, okay? So let's see what happens. If I fire this, I'm sure there will be at least one syntax error. Ah, okay, there isn't. Good for me. So let's verify if everything works. So we created a dispatcher, we defined the name actions and the change name, which fires some data into the dispatcher, okay? We've created the definition for the name store, which is a very simple one so far, so we only inherit the store class, and we created the onDispatch method, which is called every time anything is dispatched, yeah? So every time this happens, this is called with the action being the object that we sent here, okay? And we console logged it out. Then we created a store subscribed to dispatcher by sending it to the constructor, and then we called the action. And what happened is we actually got the console log and we got the correct one. So we are happy. So our Flux application so far is working. Great. Now on dispatch, and now it's good that for example then that you've trained the switch statement, because switch is very good thing here. It's very convenient to use, and so far we have only one action, but as I've said, let's create another one. Why not? Let's call it delete name, and this will not need any parameters, and it doesn't need any payload, and it will be called delete name. So now we have two actions, yeah? So when we dispatch this, and let's dispatch actually two of them now. Delete name, and it doesn't get any parameters as I've said before. So let's dispatch both of them and fix the syntax error. No comma. Good. Let's do it one more time, clean it up. So first action was change name. Yeah, console logged that out. Second action was delete name, console logged that out. But so far we didn't change any data, yeah? So far, okay, it's good. We have some sort of logging going on and we see it working, but we don't have any data so far. So let's create the data. So call it name store data, and initially I want it to be easy. So the initial data that we have is set here, yeah? And now, as I mentioned, switch is your friend, so switch action based on the action type, okay? And we have different cases. And now I've already said like this is very much a constant, yeah? So what's the reason, what's the motivation in using constants? If I want to handle these actions now, I can go case string colon break, then handle the second one, case string something happens, then break. But what happens if I, make a typo? It will not work, yeah? But if I create name constants, like we did yesterday with the game state, and we call this change name, and this will be the actual string, and then create another one, and let's call it delete name, and this will be the actual string. If I then do name dot change name and names name constants dot delete name. If I make a typo now, it will tell me that, let's make a typo. Let's first verify if it works. It works. And let's make a typo. Let's do this. I've deleted the E. Now I get oh damn it, we are not in TypeScript. Okay, what it should do, it should tell you that there is no property like this in the name constants, and it should give you a warning. Yeah, so then it will be easier. Since we will work in TypeScript, this will become even better. But for now, let's just say that it's much better to have constants defined like this, because it's when you make a typo, it will just work and it will give you a clear warning of what went wrong. Okay, and even better, this can be very long for some reason, but this can be short. Yeah, so like in the previous example, the constants I've created here, the actual text was waiting for the first card, while this is only VFTFC, so it's quicker to type. Plus, if you have autocomplete or some sort of text completion IDE going on, then it's just right away you know what's happening. Yeah, and so it's always better to use constants. And let's handle these in the switch. So this is what fires when there is a delete name, and this is what fires when there is a change name. Yeah, and now in these cases we need to change the data. Yeah, so in this case we will do name equals action dot payload. Yeah, because payload is the data that comes in the action. And if we are deleting the name, we will do name equals nothing. Yeah, we will just clear it. Okay, good. So now if we console log the data, actually not the action but the data after this.
I have a question.
Okay.
If you have the scroll up, you have that action delete name. So can you give payload and put it on the empty string as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So theoretically, delete name is not very clever action, because you can achieve the same by calling change name and just providing empty string parameter, right?
Yeah.
Or as you've said correctly again, if I just do this and do this, yeah, it will work as well if I just get the action payload here.
Yeah, because I think the delete should have the empty string payload, because then people can do some mistake, you know.
The thing is that usually the functions that doesn't accept any parameters doesn't have the payload at all, you know. It's just for convenience, really. It's like if you say, I don't know, if you think about it really, like if you are deleting something, do you really know, do you really need to know that after that delete it will be empty? You know, it's sort of like obvious, yeah?
Yeah,
but
it's obvious, but it can do something else.
Yeah,
you know?
but I'm fine with that, you know. That's fine. If whatever you want to do, like this is not a big deal. If you want to do it like this and then handle the payload, okay, let's leave it with this. You know, I don't care too much, yeah. Or you can actually even somehow call the change name with empty payload here, you know, to make it better reusable. But for now, let's keep it like this. Okay?
Okay.
Good. So what we did is we added the console log for the name store data, and now when I run it, you'll see that, so first it was easy, but this was before we console log anything. So let's call this after update, and let's add a new one called before update, and let's run it again. So before update, apologies, this is better, and here as well. So before update, first time it was easy because that's the thing we set it to. Yeah. Then after update, it was Veronica. Then before update, it was obviously Veronica because this is what we changed it to. And then after update, it was empty because the second thing that we did was delete name, right? So we are changing the data. So that's good. And now that we are sure that we are changing the data properly, we can just remove this, right? So now if I fire this, clear everything, we have nothing here. Yeah. And now the only thing that we need to know is, first of all, how to get the data from the store, because in our human-friendly example, easy was getting data from Veronica. So there needs to be some sort of means of communication between the two of you guys. So other than the pre-built functions that are on the store because it's inheriting from this store, we can define our own ones. So we can create something like getName, and the getName will return name store data name. Okay, so this is the thing that easy needs to call, right? So let's start changing the component hello so that it's using the store. So first of all, now we no longer want to inject this with a property. Yeah. So let's remove this. If it's not a property, we can keep it in state. So change these props to state, and the state needs to come from somewhere. So constructor super this.state will be JavaScript object where we set the initial data, and the initial data will be name store dot get name, right? So this way we set the name for this component to come from the store. Okay, so the initial name is easy. So now if I rerun this, okay, wait a sec, let's see what's wrong. So okay, it's empty because I've been calling some actions, forgot to remove that. Okay, so now it's easy. Yeah, and now that means that we have a way to first of all change data with the action, and then to get data with the action on the store, like we did here for the name property on the hello component. Yeah, so let's take advantage of the actions now, and let's do these in this component. Yeah, in the change name component. So what we want to fire here is the name actions, right, dot change name. We are passing in a parameter which will be the new name, so we keep the new name on state here in this component, and since this is a callback, we need to send in a function. So I'll make a shorthand. I'll just do it with an arrow function. Okay, so now every time you click this button, it fires an action that goes through the dispatcher to the store, right? So let's add the console log again that we had here. Console log, and let's log the action. Let's run this and let's click change name. And you see that there was an action type is change name, and payload is Peter. If I change this, the payload will change, because this payload comes from the state of this component, right? But we are not seeing it updating here yet, yeah? So we need to add a bit more logic to it, and that's it, and it will work. So in the previous talks we mentioned component will mount and component will unmount. I think it's this. I think it's spelled like this, I'm not sure. We'll see. So component will mount, as I've said back then, is a good place to add event handlers, and component will unmount is where you remove those event handlers. Yeah. So to make this work, we can now do name dot Addlistener, and this is a method on store. So the Flux Utils store has a method Addlistener, and it's doing a very simple thing. So let's check out what it does. So it accepts a callback, and for now I'll just console log test, yeah, so that we know when it actually happens. Okay, so we added a handler, or a listener to be more precise, to the name store. Therefore, every time the name store change, we want this to fire. Okay, so let's run it, and now if I click change, we want to see test here, but we don't see it yet. The reason why we don't see it is it's not intelligent. You know, it shouldn't be intelligent. It doesn't know when you changed the data, because, for example, in this case we changed the data, but there can be another function that doesn't change the data. That wouldn't be a very good function, but it can happen, yeah? So you need to explicitly say that you want to emit the event that something changed. Everybody who's listening should be aware that something was changed on the data. Okay? And the way to do this is we call another method that is on it, which is called Emit Change, without parameters, yeah? And that's it. So now when I run this and I click change name, you see that we get our test. So that's good, yeah? And since this is a callback, I can put anything here. So rather than console log, let's console log name store dot get name. So this is the method we've created to get the name out of the store, right? So if I console log the name from the store, I get Peter. If I change this, I get Peter too. And we're almost there now. This is very exciting, because now we are talking to a data that was changed by a different component, and we are reading it from our previous component through the store without them two talking to each other directly, yeah? So if you have two components, or you have 50 components, or you have 5,000 components, the logic will remain very simple, and it will be very easy to add things and to maintain stuff, yeah? So now, one last thing that we need to do is, so we can either do this dot set state and set the name from the name store, get name, yeah, and this will work. It should. Syntax error. Anybody see the syntax error? Extra bracket. Okay, so now if I click change name, we get this, and set state. Something is wrong. Just a moment. Let's change name. Blah blah blah. Okay. Let's do it as a proper function to make it a bit clearer. So let's call it change name, or let's call it name changed. Yeah, because we are not changing it; it was changed without our knowing about it. And rather than do this, just go copy this stuff, put it here, and call the function and bind it to this. Okay, so now we should change the name to the value that comes from the getName store. Okay, and just to be sure everything is still working, let's console log this as well. So let's console log the new name, and you call the function of on the class with this keyword. Okay, let's change the name. So this is working, but the name is still not changing. So let's console log this state instead. So the state is correct. It's now Peter. It's now Peter 2. But for some reason we still get easy here. Easy, why do you want to stay there so much? So this stay. I've been adding this to the wrong to the wrong component. Apologies. Because this is the change name component. You should have screamed at me that it makes zero sense. Here. This is where we need to add it. This is the component that needs to know about it, right? One more try. Boom. Works. Okay? So now I can change one component from another component. Okay? And one thing that we cannot forget is every time you add a listener, you have to remember to remove the listener, but I have to find out Flux Utils store remove listener. I don't know the exact syntax, so I'm googling for it. Store add listener constructor on this page. Has to be a way there to remove it. Calling the adds a listener to the store. When the store changes, the given callback will be called. The token is returned that can be used to remove the listener. Okay, so we need to keep the thing that the method returns. Yeah. So this returns something token, and then when we are done using this, we need to keep it somewhere properly. Yeah. But then when we are done using it, we call remove, and this way it will remove the listener. Yeah. And this is important because as we seen yesterday, component will mount is called every time the component is showed for the first time. So imagine you have a website and you navigate to a different route, yeah? And then you navigate back to yours. So this will fire again. You navigate away and you navigate back to your component. This will fire again, and the number of listeners will grow and grow until it becomes, so either it errors out right away or it will just start doing weird things that, like, it's hard to predict, yeah? It will fire the same action twice and God knows what will happen. So you always need to make sure that this thing is properly removed when you unmount. So you can either keep this token on state or you can keep it somehow somewhere, but you need to keep it and then you need to call remove, yeah? The reason why I didn't know how to do it is Flux is a way of doing things, and there are many different implementations of Flux, and the one I've seen before has like a remove listener, yeah? So I was expecting something like that to be there, but this one...
Peter?
Yeah?
Prevent default? Because I have seen in the tutorial about the add events prevent default for avoiding, I think, the same case.
Well, prevent default is exactly the same thing that it does in JavaScript. So when do you use prevent default? So let's say I have an anchor. Let's update this first and set base. So let's say instead of a button here, I would make it an A, yeah, and href would be just the hashtag, okay? So now if I have it like this and I run it, if I click this, it will try to, it's a link, so it should try to move me to the thing that it's pointing to. And then if I want to prevent that on click, I can actually do prevent default, yeah?
Right.
If you want to cancel the default behavior of something, this is when you do prevent default. But if you use button, which is more of a proper way, if it's a button, let it be a button. You know why? It should be an anchor when it's not an anchor. So then you don't have to do it, yeah? But from time to time, like, it's good to know about it, that from time to time you need to prevent default, yeah? So, okay. Good. So, what are your impressions about this?
Well, a lot of information again, but it's very interesting.
Yeah. Keep in mind that all of these things, like create the dispatcher, create the store, you know, you sort of only do it once, you know, and then if I want to add another action, I only add another action, yeah, and then I can call it. If I want to add another method on store, I just add another method on store and I can call it, you know. If I add another action, I need to handle it here, yeah. But there's it scales very well, you know. It horizontally, so that if you have many components listening to this, you know, now I can have, for example, when I put 2 of them here, it will work right away for all of them, yeah. If I have another component which is completely different, it will be not hello, but it will do something else, but it will need the same data. It will get it right away, you know. You don't have to worry about it at all. Plus, if you are adding new things, this is jsfiddle. Everything is in one place. But when we do it properly, we will have a file actions, we will have a file constants, we will have a file store, and we will have a file for each component, yeah? So then you will know, with a bit of practice, you will know right away, like, I need to I need to change the data in a different way, in a way that we've not been doing so far. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to add an action, okay? So I go to actions. Then I need to use the constant, so I go to constants and add a new constant, yeah? Then I need to handle the change, so I go to store and handle the new action, yeah? And that's it, you know? And then you just fire the new action wherever you wanted to fire it in the first place. So when you get a bit more confidence with it, it sounds maybe like a lot of information in the beginning, but the thing to keep in mind is the idea is simple, yeah? It's always important to keep the ideas very simple, because usually the simple ideas requires the least amount of work, and things doesn't get complicated when you start doing more interesting things with it, yeah? And if you know why it's done like this, then the implementation should be pretty clear as well, because maybe you don't know right away how to create dispatcher because you are not familiar with the ES6 syntax so much, or maybe you don't know how to create the store right away because you don't remember if the method that handles the events that are dispatched is called like onDispatch or if it's called something else, you know. That's fair, you know, you just need practice for that. But if you understand the logic is not very complicated. So I'm hoping it will make sense to all of you and you will be able to use it properly and quickly. Okay, any other questions?
I have a question. So you can have like 50 components,
yeah,
and you need only one store?
So you can have any number of components, any number of stores, and any number of actions and constants, but dispatcher is always only one. So if I create a second component here, yeah, and a second store, so let's say our first store was the name store, and let's say that our second store will be last name store, yeah, because we for some reason we want to keep first name and last name in different stores. Don't look too much into it. Then, for example, component hello might only care about the name store, but the component hi can care about the name store and the... What's going on? Okay, managed to do it. And this one as well, yeah? So this way, you when you are adding listeners, yeah? Oh, it's displays here. Component will mount. Sorry, wrong demo. Component will mount here. Then you will have a last name store. You will add a listener, maybe another listener, maybe the same, up to you, you know, doesn't matter. And then that's it, you know. So you've added a new store, and now your component can take advantage of it, and you can have many stores, many components. Some components use only one store, some components doesn't use any store. I'm not saying like, now that you know Flux, use a store for everything, you know. That's not the case, because there will still be a lot of components that are dumb, as I've said before. So these are smart components because they are connected to the store, but the dumb components will still only accept properties and render those out, yeah? And the way to decide is just think about it, you know? If you think that the component will benefit out of being connected to the store, do it, yeah? If you can do it with properties, well, it's always better to do it with properties if it's maintainable enough, because you can unit test it more easily, okay? So, make sense?
And can you tell me some example when, I don't know, 3 components will have benefit from one store?
Yeah, sure. So easy. Let's do. We have the hello component here. Yeah. Let's do. My name is component here, which will coincidentally be almost the same, but I just say my name is, and it will output the name. And if 2 is enough, I hope you now understand where I'm going with this. But then when I do this, we have 2 components, component hello and component my name is. Yeah, they are now last name store. Sorry, I've been obviously doing something with this which I shouldn't, because last name store is just something we made up. And now we have 2 components which are rendering the same data. So first one is the hello component, and the second one is my name is component. And when I click change name, it changes in both of them. Okay?
I just wanted to be sure that I understand it.
Yeah,
correctly.
I understand. So this is a dumb example, but it works right away, and I think it should make sense. But if you need a more of a real world example, think of a settings page. Yeah? So you have, no matter what application you have, but you can, let's say you can change some settings, and you have number of pages and number of components, and some of these components and some of these pages will care about the settings. Yeah? And what you need is every time you change settings, all of these components should be updated automatically right away with the least amount of work possible. Yeah? And that's what this allows you to do, because this is just an abstraction. These components are just stupid one sentence nothing. Yeah? But if the data we keep on the store is complex and there are arrays and there is some graphs going on and stuff like that, then this component can handle the display the data in a totally different way than this one, but it's still the same data. Yeah? So it's quite useful to be able to connect 2 components to the same store, especially in a proper big applications. Yeah.
I'm thinking about it like that the dispatcher is like broadcast tower. Then you have different channels, that is like stores, and then you have like users that are taking different stores, you know?
Yeah, sort of. I wouldn't call the stores channels, because store is more of a place where you keep data, while channel might remind somebody of like a channel is just means of communication, but store keeps data. So I would say,
I mean like a TV channel or something.
yeah, well, yeah, I know you understand what you mean. Yeah, let's say yes. Yeah, I think it's okay, definitely, to think of it that way. Okay, then you've been awfully quiet. Hope it means that it's so easy for you that you are just finishing second beer now and just Then I think you're on mute if you're saying something.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, just taking it all in. Like the concept is quite simple, like you say. It's just something completely new again, and I think it's just like the last assignment we had. We're just gonna get our hands dirty, and we'll start to understand when we do that.
That's right. That sounds good to me as well. So, motivation for the next speech that we are going to have Tuesday. So that means that Veronica has Saturday to train these new concepts, and Izzy and Dan, you both have whole Monday to work on this. Okay. So first of all, what I want you to do is either come up with something that uses store in some clever, fun way, or if you don't have any ideas, then just add stores, for example, to the game we had. So let's create the settings component. I will I will share this with you, or actually I did already. It's on my public jsfiddles. Yeah, and let's make the settings store, settings component, talk to a settings store, and let's make the game talk to the same store as well, so that then, as I've explained here, you can move the settings somewhere else. Okay? So this will be something for you guys to do on the day when I'm off, and on Tuesday we will continue with last sort of speech that will be oriented only on React and the way we handle data. So today we spoke about Flux, and then on Tuesday I want to speak about Redux. Yeah? So Redux, so it goes like this. If the thing that you are creating with React is totally simple, just inject properties and do it with that. Yeah? If it gets a bit more complicated, use Flux, because it's easy to set up. Like, maybe it doesn't seem that way to you now, but this is really easy when it compared to when you have a big application and you need to come up with a architecture to handle I don't know what. You know, this is simple. This is just still this example, even with all the things that we put extra and all the empty lines, it's like 115 lines. Yeah, so it's simple to set up and it works quite well. And then if your application is really complicated and you think you can benefit of maybe spending some more time setting things up, but then benefit of having them set up properly, that's when you do Redux. Yeah, and Redux, as I've said, will be a bit more complicated. Again, the main idea, I think it's very simple, and the only more complicated part is to understand how to write the code with it properly. Good, so this will be Tuesday then, okay?
Cool.
And in the meantime, we have still quite a lot of time today, so I'll help you with whatever you are doing, okay?
Cool, sounds good.
Awesome.
It's a question, Peter. It's about, so for example, what you have said, for example, to carry on with the example where we have been working. So what is the next stage? So you, for example, you say it would be a good example.
Yeah, so like I said here, so this is so I've added the settings to this game we worked on, and the good example of using Flux will be just move the settings component out of the layout component and put it somewhere else and make it talk to each other with Flux. Yeah, so with the store basically.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Great. So, any other questions?
Just thinking about the site that we're going to be building.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying we're not actually going to be changing that many of the features. That it's all going to be pretty much the same. Can you see any like examples there where we'd be using these stores?
Yeah. So let's look at the page. Pool live info. So first of all, when you navigate to something else, this is handled by a store. Yeah. In Redux we don't have stores per se. It will be something different, but in terms of what we've been talking about now, this is a store because this is a URL and you need to keep it somewhere. The data that you have, so for example this is data that comes in, like, I don't know, the data for this carousel, yeah? So these all are components that connect to a store of some sort. So you will have a store called, I don't know how we will structure it just yet. It depends a lot on how the whole application turns out to be. But if the home page is fairly separated from the rest of the page, you can have like a home page store which will only contain the information about this. Like you have the promotion stuff, you have the carousel here, you have maybe some other text that you need to handle. Yeah. Then if you go to these pages here, you have the data, and the data again needs to be kept somewhere. So it will be kept in the store, yeah, to make it reusable and to make it easier to work with it. And that's the same thing with all of the rest of these, really. Yeah. So some of them will be dumb components, some of them will be smart, but you will definitely see that some of them needs to be smart in order to make it work properly. But it will be much easier to see that when we actually start doing something with it.
Cool.
Okie doke. Anything else?
No.
Okay, been a pleasure, guys, as always. See some nice progress with you. So I'm hoping by Tuesday, when all of you have one extra day plus the hours we have left today, that you'll have some pretty cool stuff already done, and even more in your head prepared to be spit out on the paper. Good. So speak later, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.